Hi, Clayton. It's Barb again. I had a question about after a tenant moves out, you get in there. What do you do if they mess everything up, especially if it's more damage than they gave you in a deposit? Appreciate it.
Thank you, Barb. It sounds like Barb has had. I think she was a caller in our show a few months ago and was had a question about tenant damage, and so sounds like she dealt with a pretty bad tenant in the property. And look, this is going to happen as a real estate investor. You're going to deal with tenant damage at some point. Especially, I mean, just think about it, right? I like to think when you're getting started with real estate investing, there are a number of things that you're probably nervous about when you get started, right? You're probably worried about, what if I have a tenant that doesn't pay? What if I can't find a tenant for the property? I don't, that's really going to be your biggest fears, right? What if I can't get a tenant for the property? What if the tenant doesn't pay? Okay, if you have one property, I could see that be you being nervous, but I want you to picture yourself in the future. I want you to picture yourself as if you already have 50 rental properties. Okay. Think of yourself as a more advanced real estate investor. Think 3, 4, 5 years from now. When you have 50 rental properties or 20 or 10, are you going to be so upset that you've had a difficult tenant to deal with and you have to go through a process of eviction and getting a new tenant in the property? It's going to happen, right? I've had to deal with it. Every real estate investor has to deal with it. Imagine one of my mentors who has 2,000 doors. Do you think he's ever had to deal with an eviction? Of course. It's part of business, right? It's part of business. That's what separates you from other people. You've taken action. You could just be working a 9 to 5 job and a 401k, but you decided you wanted to build a legacy for your family. So you've taken that extra step that other people won't do. And now you've got a rental property or 2 or 3, and you're building performing assets and legacy wealth. That's the way to do it. So now you've got a bad tenant. Okay. It's going to happen. And the tenant placed a security deposit with the property management company, and the tenant now has damaged the property more than the security deposit will cover. Okay, so maybe they did first month's rent in the property, and that was the deposit, and they've done like $7,000 or $8,000 worth of damage. Okay, my wife had a condo in San Francisco in an A-class neighborhood in the financial district. Okay, and a couple that had a dog and whatever, they just like destroyed the condo. I mean, like the dog pee on the wood floors. They damaged the walls, the cabinets. I mean, it's like, what are you guys doing in here? Like what? Really? Like, what do you? How do you live like that? Anyway, it happens. And so, fortunately, you have homeowners insurance. That's the key. You want to make sure you have insurance on these properties, and that's the first thing that you would do is contact your homeowners insurance and say that the tenant in the property damaged the rental property, and they'll be able to provide you a check for getting it fixed up. Depends on what your deductible is, right? Chances are maybe you've got a $500 deductible. Okay, so if it exceeds that amount, $500, remember that's a business expense, okay, for your business. And then, yes, you're going to get that insurance money back and you're going to fix up the property. Next step, though, is like that's out of your pocket, but what about the tenant's pocket? Okay, you're going to first of all accept the security deposit to fix up the property, but you could also contact a lawyer, and if it makes sense, if the cost makes sense to go after that tenant in a court of law for retribution, that's something you should also consider, is hiring a lawyer who can deal with that. But look, anytime you're going to deal, and it could be just as something as simple as having having a letter written by the lawyer demanding restitution on the property. Otherwise, we are going to sue you and take you to court. And that threat might sometimes be enough for that person to pay up on this damage in the property. But if not, then you have to consider retaining a lawyer. Okay, so cheaper lawyers. I would say any lawyer that's charging less than $150 an hour is probably not a good lawyer. I've dealt with a lot of lawyers in business over the years, and when you go cheap, it doesn't work. So you want to make sure you're paying, and therefore it's going to be a $5,000 retainer just to engage a particular lawyer's services for you to work with that lawyer. Some lawyers $10,000, some $20,000 on a retainer to get started. So you have to consider all of those things. Is it worth going after a tenant in a court of law and suing that tenant for damages in the property? But very often your homeowner's insurance, your rental insurance policy will cover this damage. And so you just have to think about where your deductible sits and reach out to your homeowner's insurance on the rental property and get that fixed up. Again, a business expense. It's not something we want to deal with. You can chase down a tenant with a lawyer, but if, at the end of the day, if the numbers make sense, then go for it. Again, something my father-in-law taught me. He's a great business person, so he had one thing he told me is, if whenever he considers a lawsuit, and in business, these are things that happen all the time. If the damages for him, I think, were over $35,000 or $40,000, that's when he would consider going the legal route. Less than that, it's just not going to be worth the time, attention, and pain to deal with something like that. So my best bet would be to contact the homeowner's insurance and get that fixed up and get a check from your insurance company. That would be my best guess for that. So Barb, I'm sorry you're dealing with a bad tenant. But hey, you live and learn. And hopefully next time the property management company that you're working with and wherever you happen to be screens that tenant better, make sure that they have a clean record and that they've got a great job and all of that stuff. So I'm not sure what exactly happened there, but my heart goes out to you. So if you have any voicemail questions you'd like to leave, just go to our website, go to morrisinvest.com and click on the little microphone button there to leave us a 30-second voicemail message, and we will be happy to answer them here on the show. So now, at the very least, go out there, take action, become a real estate investor. I believe it's the number one way to build wealth. We'll see you next time, everyone.